Elias Cadet was standing exactly where he always stood, at the back of the hall, not hidden, but not important either. The diplomatic chamber was enormous, shaped like a slow spiral, with floating platforms instead of chairs. Each platform held a representative from a different species. Some were tall, some small. Some looked like animals. Some looked like light held in a shape that refused to stay still. A few were machines that hummed softly, thinking faster than anyone else in the room. Humans were placed near the outer curve of the spiral, not ignored, but not central. Humanity was still new to this part of the galaxy. Useful, clever, loud sometimes, but not ancient, not powerful enough to matter in rooms like this. Elias was not even on the human platform. He stood behind it. He was an observer, a note-taker, a man whose job was to record words that other people would later argue about. His badge did not say ambassador or commander or special envoy. It said documentation assistant, 3rd class. That suited him fine. Elias liked being unnoticed. He liked standing still while important things happened far away from him. It made the universe feel safer, like a play he could watch without being asked to step on stage. He adjusted the slim data slate in his hands and reminded himself to breathe normally. The air in the chamber was adjusted for dozens of species, and it always felt a little thin to humans. Not dangerous, just uncomfortable enough to keep him alert. The meeting had already been going on for hours. Trade routes. Borders! Sharing. Border misunderstandings that no one wanted to admit were wars. Elias recorded it all with quiet focus, his fingers moving smoothly as voices overlapped in translators, and color-shifted symbols floated above speakers' heads.
It was not sudden. No alarms.
No dramatic lights. Just a silence that spread like water. One by one, the translators went quiet. The floating symbols faded. Even the machine delegates stopped humming. Elias felt it before he understood it. A pressure in the air, not heavy, but deep. Like the moment before a thought finishes forming. He looked up. At the center of the spiral, a new platform had appeared. It had not flown in. It had not unfolded. It was simply there now, as if it had always been part of the room and everyone had somehow forgotten. On it stood the Luminol envoy. Elias had seen images before. Everyone had. But images did not prepare you for reality. The envoy did not have a fixed shape. She looked roughly humanoid, but only as a suggestion. Light bent around her, soft and bright at the same time. Her edges shifted slowly, like the outline of a thought that refused to stay still. Colors moved through her form, not random, but meaningful in ways Elias could feel without understanding. The luminal species almost never appeared in person. They did not need to. They were old, older than most recorded history. Their technology was so advanced that calling it technology felt wrong. They did not rule. They did not conquer. They simply existed, and the galaxy adjusted around them. When they spoke, people listened. Elias straightened without thinking. His training kicked in. Record everything.
Miss nothing.
The envoy's voice did not come through the translators. It entered the mind gently, shaped into whatever language the listener understood best. "We will speak briefly," she said. No one interrupted. No one moved. Elias felt a strange awareness, like the room itself was listening harder. "Our species has observed humanity for a long time," the envoy continued. "Longer than you know." A ripple of attention moved toward the human platform. Elias noticed the human ambassador stiffen, his posture suddenly careful. Elias typed faster. The envoy did not look at the ambassador. "We have studied your conflicts, your alliances, your failures, and your recoveries," she said. "We have studied your stories." Stories? Elias blinked and checked his recording. Yes, that was the word she used. "Humanity is inconsistent. the envoy said calmly.
You contradict yourselves. You act against your own predictions.
You choose paths that appear inefficient, illogical, or unstable. This did not sound like praise. Elias felt a familiar tightening in his chest. He had heard versions of this before, usually followed by warnings or restrictions. Because of this, the envoy said, you remain capable of choice. The word echoed in Elias's mind longer than the others. Choice. The envoy shifted slightly, light flowing like breath. Our species no longer possesses this quality, she said. Not in the way that matters. A quiet shock moved through the chamber. Elias could not hear gasps, but he could feel the reaction. The luminals were thought to be perfect decision-makers, their actions always aligned with the best possible outcome. We have reached a limit, the envoy continued, a boundary we cannot cross alone. She paused. Elias felt the pause like a held note, stretched just long enough to make the room lean forward. Our solution, she said, is to choose. The word landed heavily. To choose one human. Silence returned, deeper than before. Elias stared at the envoy, his fingers frozen above the slate. One human. The human ambassador opened his mouth, then closed it again. Several other species shifted, their platforms adjusting position slightly, as if instinctively creating space. Elias's mind raced. One human for what? Representation. Partnership? Sacrifice? History had too many answers for that question, and none of them were comfortable. The envoy's light shifted direction. Her attention moved. Not to the ambassador. Not to the generals seated nearby. Not to the advisors, scientists, or negotiators whose names carried weight across systems. Her gaze moved past the human platform to the back of the chamber. To Elias, he felt it like gravity finding him. The pressure in the air aligned around his position. The soft light of the envoy focused, gentle but absolute. Our choice is made, she said. Elias did not move. For half a second he was sure this was a mistake, a scanning error, a misunderstanding in perception. Any moment now, the attention would slide past him to someone important. It did not. Every eye, lens, sensor, and awareness in the room turned toward him. Elias swallowed. He became very aware of his hands, of his badge, of the fact that he was still holding a data slate like a shield. The human ambassador turned slowly, disbelief clear on his face. That's a civilian, someone whispered through a translator that had just come back online. Elias wanted to agree. The envoy's gaze did not waver. He is human, she said simply. That is sufficient. Elias felt his knees weaken, but he did not collapse. Years of standing quietly during long meetings had given him strong legs, if nothing else. I'm sorry, he said out loud, before he could stop himself. The words were small in the vast room, but the envoy heard them. Her light shifted, warmer now. You are not required to apologize, she said. Elias laughed once, sharp and nervous. I think you might have the wrong person. A few delegates reacted with surprise. Humans rarely spoke without permission in rooms like this, especially observers. The envoy seemed curious. There is no error, she said. Could you check again? Elias asked. He immediately regretted it. This was not how galactic history was supposed to sound. But the envoy did not seem offended. We did, she said. Repeatedly. Elias closed his eyes for a brief moment. When he opened them, nothing had changed. I don't have authority, he said. I don't make decisions.
I just write things down. That, the envoy replied, is precisely why you were noticed. Murmurs spread through the chamber now, controlled but impossible to hide.
Security protocols activated quietly, not aggressively. Carefully, the human ambassador stepped forward. Envoy, he said, choosing his words with care, with respect. If your species seeks a representative, humanity can. The envoy raised one hand. The room stilled again. We are not seeking representation, she said. We are seeking perspective. Her attention returned fully to Elias. You observe without shaping, she said. You listen without preparing to dominate the conversation. You record truths, even when they are inconvenient. Elias felt exposed in a way that had nothing to do with privacy. How do you even know who I am? He asked quietly. The envoy's light pulsed once. We know you by the questions you ask when no one is listening, she said. Elias felt a chill that had nothing to do with temperature. He thought of late nights reviewing transcripts, adding personal notes that no one would ever read. Questions about outcomes. About who benefited. About who disappeared between paragraphs. He had never shared those thoughts. We will explain, the envoy said, sensing his confusion. But not here! Not yet! Her platform began to fade slowly, like a star moving behind a cloud. This session is concluded, she said, and just like that, the pressure lifted. Sound rushed back into the room. Translators flared to life. Delegates began speaking all at once. Elias remained where he was. Someone touched his arm. He flinched. It was the human ambassador. Up close, the man looked older than he had from a distance.
Don't move, the ambassador said quietly.
Security is figuring things out. Elias nodded. His heart was still racing, but a strange calm settled underneath it. He looked down at his data slate. The last line he had recorded blinked softly. Our species chooses one human. For the first time in his life, Elias Cade was not standing in the back, and the universe had noticed. No one let Elias leave the chamber right away. He stood exactly where he was while people around him moved with careful speed. Security personnel spoke into their communicators. Delegates argued quietly in voices meant not to carry. Some stared at him openly. Others avoided looking at him at all, as if attention itself had become dangerous. Elias felt unreal, like someone had picked him up and placed him inside a story that belonged to another person. The human ambassador stayed close. Not touching now, but near enough to block others without making it obvious. You're not in trouble, the ambassador said softly. I need you to hear that. Elias nodded. That's good, he said, because I don't think I could handle trouble on top of whatever this is. The ambassador almost smiled. Almost. They moved him through a side passage instead of the main exit. The corridor walls were smooth and quiet, built to adapt to different species. The lighting followed them gently, never too bright. Elias noticed how many cameras adjusted their angle as he passed. That had never happened before. They brought him into a small room designed for neutral meetings. No decorations, no symbols, just a round table and seats that could reshape themselves if needed. For now, they stayed human-sized. Elias sat because someone gestured for him to sit. That alone felt strange. Moments later, the door sealed with a soft sound. Not locked, just closed. The ambassador remained standing. Elias, he said, dropping the formal tone. I need you to tell me everything. Elias let out a slow breath.
Everything about what? About you, the ambassador said.
Your background. Your evaluations. Anything unusual. Elias blinked. I file reports on time, OYA. I've never missed an assignment. I once corrected a translation error that almost caused a minor trade delay. That's it. The ambassador studied him carefully. What about your personal notes? He asked. Elias stiffened. Those aren't official. I know, the ambassador said. But the luminal envoy referenced your questions. Not your reports. Your questions. Elias looked down at his hands. I don't do anything special. I just wonder about things. Like what? Like who isn't in the room? Elias said. Who benefits later? What a decision looks like from the outside, not just from the center. The ambassador was quiet for a long moment. You know, he said slowly, entire think tanks exist to do that.
Elias shrugged.
They also exist to justify outcomes. That earned him a real look now. Not suspicion, something closer to respect.
A soft tone sounded in the room.
The air shifted. Elias felt the presence before he saw it. Light gathered near the far wall, gentle and controlled. The envoy did not fully form at first. Just enough to be there. The ambassador straightened immediately. Envoy, he said, formal again. We were not informed. You were not excluded, the envoy replied. Timing is necessary. Her attention moved to Elias. Are you comfortable? She asked. Elias hesitated. I don't know what that means right now. That is an acceptable answer, she said. The ambassador looked between them. If this conversation concerns humanity, he began, I should. It concerns perspective, the envoy said calmly. You may remain. The ambassador sat. Elias felt suddenly very aware of his breathing. You are afraid, the envoy said to him, not as an accusation. Yes, Elias said honestly. That is reasonable. Her light shifted, softening. You believe you were chosen by mistake, she continued. Yes, that belief is common among your kind, she said. It does not make it correct, Elias frowned. You said your species can't choose anymore, but you chose me. We selected, she corrected gently.
There is a difference. Feels the same from where I'm standing, Elias said. The envoy's light pulsed once.
Elias had the strange feeling she found that interesting. Our species perceives outcomes, she said. Paths, probabilities. But we follow the strongest thread. And humans don't, Elias said. You disrupt threads, she replied. You tie them together in ways that should not function. The ambassador leaned forward slightly. Envoy, with respect, what exactly are you asking of him? The envoy paused. Elias sensed the pause again, deeper this time, like standing at the edge of a thought too large to see all at once. We are approaching a convergence, she said. Multiple civilizations, competing solutions. Stable outcomes that produce long-term stagnation. Stagnation sounds better than collapse, the ambassador said. For some, the envoy replied. Not for all. She turned back to Elias. You notice those who are not optimized for, she said. Elias swallowed. Someone has to. Yes, she said. And that someone cannot be us. The room felt very small. You're saying you want me to help decide things, Elias said slowly. Not decide, the envoy said. Reflect? Reflect what? Human response, she said, before outcomes become fixed. The ambassador rubbed his forehead. This sounds dangerously vague. It is, the envoy agreed. Certainly is no longer an option. Elias let out a short laugh. Of course it isn't! The envoy focused on him again. You believe you are ordinary, she said. Yes, you are, she said. That is essential. Elias stared at her. You couldn't have picked someone trained for this. We could, she said. They would fail. Why? Because they would try to succeed. The words settled slowly. Elias thought of strategists, planners, people who optimized everything until nothing was left but numbers. And you think I won't? He asked.
You will try, she said, but you will stop when it feels wrong.
That's not a skill, Elias said. That's stout. Exactly, she replied. The ambassador looked unconvinced. What protections are in place? For him, the envoy asked. For humanity, the ambassador said. The envoy turned her attention fully to him now. There are none, she said. That is why this matters. Silence stretched again. Elias felt something settle inside him. Not confidence, not courage, acceptance. What happens next? He asked. You observe, the envoy said. You ask. You speak when silence would cause harm. And if I refuse? Elias asked. You already are, she said gently. By asking that question, Elias closed his eyes for a moment. He thought about his life before this room, the quiet work, the invisible presence, the safety of not being important. Then he thought about the words she had used, who gets forgotten. He opened his eyes. I don't want power, he said. I don't want authority. And I don't want to speak for humanity. The envoy's light warmed.
Good, she said.
Then you will not. The ambassador exhaled slowly. Elias looked at both of them. I'll listen, he said. That's all I can promise. That, the envoy replied, is all we require. Her form began to fade again, slower this time. We will return, she said. Sooner than you expect. When she was gone, the room felt emptier than before. The ambassador stood. Your life just changed, he said.
Elias nodded. I know. He replied.
And for the first time he wondered what listening to the universe might actually sound like. The days after the meeting did not explode into chaos. That surprised Elias. He had expected alarms, urgent orders, maybe someone locking him into a room with no windows. Instead, things became quiet. Too quiet. He was moved to a different section of the station, one usually reserved for visiting specialists. The room they gave him was simple. A bed, a desk, a screen that showed the slow movement of stars outside the station shield. No guards inside, but Elias could feel the attention, like a low hum in the walls. People were watching, not to threaten him, to understand him. Elias tried to keep his routine. He woke up at the same time. He ate when meals arrived. He reviewed old reports, not because anyone asked him to, but because it helped him feel normal. Words on a screen still behaved the same way they always had. That was comforting. On the third day, they began asking him to listen. It started small. A trade disagreement between two mid-level species. Nothing urgent, no danger. Just numbers, access rights, and carefully polite frustration. Elias was invited to sit in, not as a speaker, but as an observer. That part felt familiar. What did not feel familiar was the way everyone waited afterward. They did not ask him for a decision. They asked him what he noticed. Elias hesitated, then spoke carefully.
One side keeps talking about efficiency, he said.
The other keeps talking about survival. They're not actually disagreeing about the same thing. The room went quiet. Someone adjusted the discussion. A question was reframed. The tension softened just a little. Later, Elias was escorted back to his room. No one congratulated him. No one criticized him. But the next meeting request came faster. The envoy did not appear again right away. Instead, Elias began to feel her presence in other ways. Sometimes, while listening to a discussion, his thoughts would drift, not to predictions, but to possibilities, not clear visions, more like impressions. If this choice was made, something would narrow. If another was made, something would open. He never knew exactly what, and that scared him more than certainty would have. One evening, the human ambassador visited him again, this time without formality. No title, no distance.
They're calling you a lens? The ambassador said, sitting across from him.
Elias frowned. That's not a job. No, the ambassador agreed. It's a role. I didn't agree to this, Elias said.
You agreed to listen, the ambassador replied.
That was enough. Elias looked at the stars outside.
People are starting to expect things from me. Yes. And when I don't have an answer, then you'll say so, the ambassador said, which is apparently very unsettling. Over the next weeks, word spread beyond the station. Other species began requesting his presence. Not loudly, not officially, carefully, as if afraid to break something fragile. Elias noticed patterns. The oldest civilizations spoke in outcomes. The youngest spoke in hopes. The strongest spoke in balance. The weakest spoke in caution. Humans spoke in arguments. And somehow, that mattered. During one session, a representative asked him directly, "What would humans do?" Elias froze. The room waited. "I don't know," he said honestly. "Humans don't agree." The representative looked confused. "That's the answer," Elias added. "They'd argue. They'd try something. They'd mess it up. Then they'd try again."
The representative considered this. Later, Elias learned the proposal had been delayed, not canceled.
Delayed for revision. That night, he dreamed for the first time since the envoy chose him. He dreamed of standing in a room made of light, surrounded by doors that did not open until he stopped trying to choose the right one. When he woke, the envoy was there, not fully formed, just light, quiet, and patient. "You are changing trajectories," she said. "I'm just talking," Elias replied, his voice rough with sleep. "You are introducing uncertainty," she said. "We can feel it." "That doesn't sound good." "It is," she said. "And it is not." Elias sat up. "You're worried." "Yes," she said, and relieved. He rubbed his eyes. "You said your species can't choose anymore. But you keep coming back. You keep watching." "We are learning," she said. "From me?" Elias asked. "From humanity," she corrected. He was quiet for a long moment.
You know I'm going to disappoint people, he said. Yes, and some will blame humans. Yes. Elias exhaled slowly.
"Then why do this?" The envoy's light dimmed slightly, like a star behind thin cloud. "Because stagnation ends us," she said. Slowly. Perfectly. Elias felt a deep sadness in that word. Perfectly. "I don't want to be your solution," he said. "You are not," she replied. "You are our question." That stayed with him. As time passed, Elias noticed something else. People began talking differently when he was in the room, not because of fear. Because they felt seen. They explained not just what they wanted, but why. They admitted doubts. They hesitated where before they would have pushed forward. He never told them what to do. He asked them what they would accept if things went wrong. That question changed rooms. One day, a junior delegate from a small species approached him privately. "We were never asked before," she said. "Not really." Elias did not know how to respond. "Thank you," she added, then left. That night, Elias sat alone, staring at his slate. He realized something that made his chest tighten. The galaxy was not waiting for him to be right. It was waiting for him to be honest. And honesty he was learning carried weight. More weight than authority ever had. Somewhere far beyond the station, the luminal species adjusted their models. They could no longer see a single strong thread. Instead, they saw many weaker ones, crossing, tangling, holding each other up, unstable, alive. And for the first time in a very long while, they did not know what would happen next. Elias began to feel tired in a way sleep did not fix. It was not the meetings. It was not the attention. It was the slow weight of being listened to. Every word mattered now. That realization followed him everywhere. He noticed it when he spoke, and rooms leaned in. He noticed it when silence stretched longer than it used to. as if silence itself had become a statement. He noticed it most when people waited for him to speak first, even though he never asked for that position. The station adjusted around him without asking. His access expanded quietly. Doors opened that had never opened for him before. Systems accepted his presence without challenge. It was not authority. It was accommodation that felt more dangerous. One cycle, the envoy returned in full form. This time, it was not in his room or a private space. It was in the largest shared chamber on the station. Representatives from dozens of species were present, including humans, not for negotiation, for observation. Elias stood near the center. Not alone, but separate. The envoy's light filled the space gently, steady, and calm. You have altered the flow, she said, speaking to the room, but looking at Elias. Uncertainty has increased. A murmur passed through the chamber. Outcomes are less predictable, she continued. Timelines have diverged. Some delegates looked uneasy. Others looked curious. This was expected, she said, but its scale was not. Elias felt every gaze move toward him. You said that was the point, he said quietly. Yes, the envoy replied, and we must now address the cost. The words settled heavily. She turned slightly, and a projection formed in the air, not images of destruction or fear, just patterns. Systems that slowed, alliances that paused, decisions delayed again and again. Progress has stalled in some regions, she said.
Decisions that require commitment now hesitate. That sounds like choice, Elias said. It is, she agreed.
But choice carries weight. Elias felt something shift inside him, a familiar feeling. The one that came before hard questions. You're asking me to fix this, he said.
We are asking you to consider the next step, she replied. The room waited. You told me you couldn't choose anymore, Elias said, that your species lost that ability. Yes, so why does this feel like you're asking me to choose for you? The envoy did not answer right away.
When she did, her light was dimmer. Because we are afraid, she said. The admission rippled through the chamber. Fear was not something the luminal species were known to express.
Afraid of what? Elias asked. Of becoming irrelevant, she said.
Of watching the galaxy fracture into endless hesitation. Of fading into observation alone.
Elias nodded slowly. You want certainty back, he said.
We want direction, she corrected. Same thing, Elias replied. The envoy studied him. There is an option, she said. A deeper integration. Elias felt the words before he understood them. You would become a permanent interface, she continued. A stable point through which we can act again. Your perspective combined with our capacity. The chamber was silent. Elias felt his heart beat faster, but his voice stayed steady. You want to keep me, he said. Yes. For how long? The envoy did not answer. Elias understood anyway. Forever, he said softly. Time would no longer limit you, she said.
You would not age. You would not be harmed.
You would exist between. Elias felt cold. And humanity? He asked. They would be represented, she said. Through you. He laughed once, sharp and humorless. You said not to speak for humanity. This would be different, she said. No, Elias replied. It wouldn't. The chamber held its breath. You'd be turning me into something humans can't argue with, he said. Something final. The envoy did not deny it. And if I refuse? Elias asked. Then uncertainty continues, she said. And the risk grows. Elias looked around the room, at the faces, shapes, lights, at beings who had lived longer than his species had existed, at those who feared chaos, More than loss, he saw something else too. Hope. Not for answers, for honesty. You chose me because I stop when things feel wrong, Elias said. This feels wrong. The envoy's light flickered, unstable for the first time.
You would deny the galaxy's stability?
Someone asked. Elias turned to them. No, he said. I deny it false certainty. He faced the envoy again.
You didn't choose me because I'd obey, he said. You chose me because I wouldn't.
The envoy was silent. Elias took a slow breath.
There's another option,
he said. Attention sharpened. You don't need one human, he continued.
And you don't need permanence?
The envoy tilted her head slightly.
Explain. You need voices,
Elias said. Changing ones? Human ones. Rotating. Temporary. People who return home and argue about what they saw.
That would be inefficient, she said.
Yes, Elias replied. That's the point. The chamber stirred.
You're afraid of losing control, Elias said gently. Humans lose it all the time.
We survive anyway. The envoy considered this. Your solution increases risk, she said.
It shares it, Elias replied. Silence stretched again.
Then, something unprecedented happened. The envoy hesitated. Not paused, hesitated. We cannot see the outcome, she said quietly. Elias nodded. Neither can I. That was enough. The envoy's light slowly brightened, not in intensity, but in clarity.
We will withdraw the offer, she said.
And adopt the alternative? A wave of reaction moved through the chamber. Relief, confusion, concern.
You will return to obscurity, she said to Elias, by your own design.
Yes, Elias replied. That's important. The envoy regarded him one last time. You have changed us, she said.
Elias shook his head. You were already changing.
I just noticed. The light faded. The chamber slowly filled with sound again. Elias stood still, heart racing, hands steady. He was not chosen forever. And because of that, neither was anyone else. For the first time since this began, Elias felt truly human again. And somewhere, deep within the vast models of the luminal species, uncertainty remained. But so did something new. Trust. The station did not celebrate the decision. There were no announcements, no grand closing statements, no moment where everyone stood and acknowledged what had changed. Instead, life continued in small, careful steps, like a room full of people learning how to walk on a new floor. Elias noticed the change right away. People no longer waited for him to arrive before speaking. They no longer turned toward him at the end of every discussion. His presence was still noted, still respected, but it was no longer treated as an answer waiting to happen. That was exactly what he wanted. The liminal envoy did not return for a long time. When she did, it was not dramatic. She appeared briefly during a routine session, her light calm and distant, observing more than speaking. And then she left again. Elias remained. For a while, nothing felt different. That was the strange part. The galaxy did not break. It did not collapse into confusion. Decisions still happened. Agreements were still made, but they were slower now. Less perfect, more argued, more human. A new system was quietly put into place. Not a title. Not an office, just a process. Human observers would rotate through key discussions, not leaders, not heroes. People who asked questions and went home afterward. People who carried uncertainty back with them instead of leaving it behind. Elias helped design the first version, then stepped away. That mattered too. On his last official day, he stood in the same diplomatic chamber where it had all begun. Same spiral shape, same floating platforms, same quiet hum of systems keeping very different beings alive in one shared space. He stood at the back again, this time, by choice. The human ambassador joined him briefly.
You could have stayed central, the ambassador said. They would have allowed it.
Elias nodded.
That's why I didn't. The ambassador studied him. Do you regret it? Elias thought for a moment.
No, he said. I think I'd regret becoming certain.
The ambassador smiled faintly. You know, people will talk about you. I know, Elias replied. They'll get it wrong. Of course they will. That's fine. The ambassador extended a hand. Elias shook it. Then the ambassador returned to the platform, and Elias returned to being unseen. In the cycles that followed, Elias went home. Not to Earth at first, but to a smaller human station where he had once worked before being transferred to bigger things. The station felt quieter, less important. That felt right. He took a job reviewing interspecies communication records. Quiet work. Careful work. The kind that required attention, but not authority. Sometimes someone recognized him. They were never sure. Are you? They would begin, and Elias would smile and say, no. That was usually enough.
At night, he wrote. Not reports.
Not records. Questions. He wrote about what it felt like to be listened to. About the danger of being right too often. About how silence could be kind or cruel depending on when it was used. He never sent these writings anywhere. That was important too. Far away, the luminal species continued to change. Their models no longer showed perfect outcomes. Instead, they showed spaces. Gaps where choice existed. Places where probability did not settle. At first, this terrified them. Then, slowly, it began to feel like breathing again. They did not choose another single human. They listened instead. Across the galaxy, smaller species noticed something unusual. They were asked questions. Not once, not as a formality, but often. What happens if this fails? Who carries the cost? What would make this acceptable, not ideal? These questions did not stop progress. They changed its shape. Years passed. Humanity was not elevated to rulers or saviors. There were no statues of Elias Kade, no systems named after him. That, too, was by design. Instead, humans became known for something quieter. They were invited when things were unclear. They were requested when outcomes felt too clean. They were trusted when someone needed a reminder that perfection often erased people. Elias grew older. His hair grayed. His hands slowed slightly when he typed. He trained new observers, teaching them how to listen without preparing a response.
Don't look for the best answer, he told them. Look for the honest one. Those aren't the same? One asked.
Elias smiled. You'll see. Sometimes, late at night, he dreamed of light again, of doors that opened only when he stopped trying to control them. But now, the dreams felt gentle. One evening, as he sat by a window watching distant stars drift past, the envoy appeared. One last time. Not fully. Just enough. You have lived well, she said. Elias did not jump this time. Did it work? He asked. Yes, she said, and no. He smiled. Good.
You are nearing the end of your time, she said. I know. Do you fear it? Elias thought for a long moment.
No, he said. I think I'd fear not ending more. The envoy's light warmed. You taught us something we could not model, she said. What was that? That choosing not to choose can still be a choice. she replied, and that listening can be an action. Elias nodded. You'll keep listening? He asked. Yes, she said. We will never stop now. The light faded. Elias remained by the window, feeling the quiet weight of a life lived without certainty. When he finally closed his eyes for the last time, the galaxy did not tremble. But somewhere, in a room full of voices, someone paused and asked a better question. And that was enough. The universe did not choose one human. It chose to listen to them.